Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the Language Lounge. So I wanted to do a really short video. This will probably only be just a few minutes long. Just kind of talking about how I'm going to be doing and formatting my Language Lounge videos going forward from this point. Because before I was talking about just kind of anything related to language learning. Last week was about immersion, and I've talked about a couple of different resources for learning Japanese specifically. But I'm going to be changing a little bit going forward. So what I'm going to be doing is in the videos, what you're going to see is I'm going to talk about just my learning, my actual learning. I'm going to talk about different phrases that I've learned. I'll talk about different subjects that I've covered either in Japanese from Zero or in my immersion or whatever I happen to have, just whatever stuck out to me. In doing this, I might throw in some odd kind of things that I've learned about language learning in general, just as from doing it. But what my intention is in changing it up like this is to give myself more of a way to hold myself accountable for getting things, for actually studying. As one of the pitfalls that I fall into constantly is that, not that I lose interest, because I don't. I'm still incredibly interested in it, in learning Japanese and in learning languages, but I get distracted. And I'll study really well for 1 week or maybe 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden for, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I will still study, but not as much because I'm distracted by, watching shows on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or something like that, or watching YouTube videos that are not in Japanese, or, reading books, like I'm rereading the Harry Potter books right now, and I'm all for doing all that other stuff, but there has to be a balance, and for me, there's not always a balance. There's been a really good balance today, which I'm recording this on Friday, and you'll be seeing it on Sunday, so 2 days ago. But there's been a really good balance for me today, because, today's my day off, one of my days off, and I've already sat and watched some videos from Masuo Games for a total of around 2 hours, almost 2 hours. So I've gotten a fair bit of immersion today. I haven't done any studying in any sort of the Memrise app or anything like that. The other thing that's going to be changing is I'm not going to be using Memrise. I'm not going to be using Memrise as much. I'm going to bump down the goal for the words per day. I had it at the highest point, which was at 30. And that was, one, that was getting a little ridiculous for me to do every day. And also because there's one thing, and I watched a video where somebody actually talked about this same thing that I kind of encountered, is one of the problems that I see with Memrise. Because overall it's really great, but it doesn't fully have the SRS system down. It does, but you can still go in and just tell it to do a review. Even if according to the way the SRS system works, you wouldn't be ready to review, those words. You can still just go in and say, okay, let's review those words, and you can just keep going and trying to drill them into your head. And that's not how a spaced repetition system works. It hits it. The idea is that when you're about to forget it, that's when the SRS system goes, hey, you're about to forget this word, let's study it again. And that's what's cemented in your head. So I'm going to kind of back off on doing Memrise so much. But one of the things that I am going to do is that if I can find anything right now, because I think the library has opened back up, at least partially, so we'll have to see. But if not, then I'll do it another way, is I'm going to get some children's books in Japanese. Now, what my plan is with those is I'm going to read through those, because the children's books have the kanji in them, but they also have the furigana, which is one of the things that I need in order to learn the kanji and stuff. And I'm going to read the children's books to try and gain a little bit of a little bit more vocabulary is the intention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read, and I've watched a video about this, and this is kind of how this guy does it. He got it from somebody else, I think, is that you read through the book once without anything, just read through it. It doesn't matter if you understand it. Because like for me, I can read all of the hiragana and the katakana. And so I'll just read through it once, even without understanding all of the words. And then what you do is you go through that book again, read it a second time, and any of the words that you come across, any words you don't know, and you mark some of the words you don't know. Not all of them, just some of them. So you would mark, like, in the case of a children's book, probably be at most 1 word per page. And then you take those words that you marked, you write them on a little note card, and you tape that to the front. Well, if I'm using library books, I won't tape them to the front, but you put that in the front of the book somehow. And so then when you go through the next time, when you come across those words, you can instead of having to stop and look them up, which breaks your flow, you can just flip to the front real quick, go, okay, that's what the word is, flip it back, if you didn't remember it. While you're doing that, you're also marking some more words. And again, only like 1 or 2 per page. In the case of children's books, like picture books or something like that, probably just 1. And so, because a lot of the rest of it, you should be able to pick up through context if you're getting more of the other words in. It's like if you only get, by the end of it, if you've only marked 2 words per page through the whole book, then when you read it the next time, the rest of the words, if you don't know them, you should be able to pick up through context. But if you don't, then you can just kind of keep repeating the process. So, but that's going to kind of help get a little bit more vocabulary, and then you kind of start stepping it up to slightly more complicated, books, and then up to novels and stuff. And so that's what my plan is. So again, along with still studying the Japanese from zero, which is how I'm going to learn the kanji. And then later start the book remembering the kanji so that it kind of solidifies the kanji better in my head. So, but that's going to be how I'm going to format these videos going forward, is I'm going to talk about, like in this case, what children's book I'm going through at the time, some of the different words that I've learned or phrases that I've learned while going through that book. One of the things that I'm also going to do with that book is those are the books that I'm going to use to read to Aiden before we go to bed, because we read to him every night before bed. And so I'm going to use those books to read to him. That way he is also getting exposed to it, so when I'm speaking in Japanese, it won't be completely weird to him. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I'm going to format things going forward. So, thank you all for sticking with me. I know it's been a little bit of a rough ride. I get distracted a lot and kind of fall off the bandwagon. I still haven't gotten to a point where I can have any semblance of a conversation in Japanese, even if I were to try. So hopefully I can get to that point before too long. But as of right now, we'll just have to kind of keep going. But so thank you all for sticking with me. And until next week, don't forget to thank the Phoenicians.
Let's get some sun, baby, it's time to go. All we need to put on is the radio. I can feel